Pierson. Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here with you.
I'm excited for this.
Nice. Good. Well, if you're getting the newsletter, folks know I'm Sarah Buffie. You are Michelle Pierson. And yes, I'm so excited to ask you some questions and talk about some things. But really, I'm just excited to share your gifts with our whole network. I think the work you've been doing over the past several years, you've been leaning in, not just professionally, but personally. You've had a big impact from your mindfulness work. So I'm excited to share that with folks. But one thing I just wanted to name, we met, I'm going to get dates and times wrong, but we met a long time ago, I'd say a couple of years back. And as I have been able to be in relationship with you and in conversation, I've also been able to witness your journey, right? And just the parts that I've been privy to. But from what I'm understanding is your work around mindfulness, and now your work around trauma sensitive mindfulness with the class that we're supporting has grown pretty significantly. And you've had experiences over the years working with professionals, with parents. You've been in the education system over the past year. So I just first want to just give a shout out that not only do I love your work, but I love partnering with you, how we collaborate and how we create together. I really feel like we have a good flow together. And I've not only appreciated creating with you, but actually learning from you. I feel like some of the work I've done around trauma-informed care and trauma-responsive care, it's been really head-based, knowledge-based. And you're one of the folks that helps bring us back into our bodies, where a lot of this, that's where that work is, right? So just kudos to you and your company, Lilac and Indigo, that you've kicked off. And I know people have found a lot of joy in. Just for our audience, you have now twice now you have completed our final session from the Trauma-Informed Biographical Timeline cohort. We will never not have you. It's the most excited, most you talked about session where you come in and bring your mindfulness practices to support those of us as facilitators. We're holding stories, we're doing good work in communities, but we also need care ourselves. So we brought you in to support that work, but I know that's just a tip of the iceberg. So enough from me. A broad question from you, or for you, is who are you in this world? You can take that in any direction you want. I know it's a big one. And what lights you up about the work that you do?
So who am I in the world? I'm a space holder, a connector, a curious human. People close to me know that I ask a lot of questions and I tend to process in questions. So I'm always eager to learn. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the basis of me. Like, I just feel very curious about the world, and I spend a lot of time in deep thought. And so that has been one of the benefits of my practice, is just balancing this deep thought and channeling that into how I'm acting and what I'm doing in the world. And what lights me up about the work, I think, is just this opportunity to create space for people to exhale, this space for people to get curious about themselves, get curious about the people around them, to have agency, to have choice. And I think my biggest goal and the biggest thing that excites me is this awareness that people have that they get to nourish themselves. Like nourishment should be a part of all of the things, right? And when you're walking into a space, into a relationship, into a job or a role, like, how are you being nourished? And you get to ask that question, right? And I think something that's really been exciting for me as an entrepreneur is how can I create my own work life in a way that's nourishing? Yes. And so that's something that's actually been at the forefront of my mind recently, because I'm sort of in this space of like kind of like redesigning Lilac and Indigo, if you will, because, you know, I've been really grateful and fortunate enough to have been able to spread my work across different organizations, and the word is getting out there, and I love that. But I was starting to say yes to like all the things. And so, you know, in terms of traveling to other cities and, you know, doing things like that. And so I'm in the space right now where I'm deciding, what do I get to say yes to, you know? So, yeah.
Well, now I just want to take your master class on how to say yes and no, because I still don't know how to say no to stuff. Right? So,
Well,
what a beautiful gift. Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Well, and it's tricky because, you know, on one hand, bills have to be paid, right? And so that's a reality. And so a friend of mine, Alexander Shelton, I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Sure.
They're a powerful, dynamic yoga instructor. And they're always reminding me of like what it means to organize your life around rest, and how radical as a Black woman that decision is. And just they were really one of the first people to really ask me that question of like, how are you organizing your life so that you can rest and rejuvenate and recuperate? So Alexander Shelton is someone I really would recommend folks get connected with and follow their work, because they're taking that whole dynamic into the social justice space, specifically for Black folks, and like how can Black folks be uplifted in that way?
Yes, I have the privilege of knowing of Alexander Shelton, but not knowing them, you know, personally in their work. So I love that you lifted them up, and we'll definitely link to their work in our show notes, if you will. But that as an organizing principle, as a kind of a North Star, right? How can I organize my life around rest? That sounds like where you're moving Lilac and Indigo. But for our viewers, bring us back to the beginning of that. And I didn't even name exactly what you are professionally, right? So take
it back. It's fine. It's all good.
There. And take us from inception, and maybe even paint the dream of where you would like to be going.
Yeah. Okay. So, so I'm a meditation guide and facilitator. I have been doing this work of holding space for folks for about 5 years now. I had never planned to do this work. Like, it was never something I was interested in. But I have always been very curious about the world, and I've always been, again, just super thoughtful about emotions. And I was a psychology major at Xavier, and just always interested in the human mind, all of those things. And so after I graduated college, I think like a lot of people, I really, really, really struggled. Like with my sense of identity, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, just, being an adult in the world, all those things. And so I also didn't have health insurance, so I needed a free way to deal with this problem. And so I literally just started Googling like meditations, looking up meditations on YouTube and things like that. And I really enjoyed and really just resonated with the concept of mindfulness and this idea of tending to your inner self and your inner world, and just this, what it means to be in stillness, what it means to be in tune with the body. And so in, I think it was 2017, I was offered an opportunity to take meditation teacher training through Yoga on High. I received a grant to do that. And so I figured I might as well at least take the training. And if anything, I would just deepen my practice. And so as a part of that training, you have to do the, like the student teaching thing. And so I was really inspired to do something that involved creativity in my practice sessions. And so that's actually where Make and Meditate was born. So I decided to, host a class where people can create their own self-care kits. And so each kit came with, each week we would do a different part of the kit and we would focus on a different mindfulness practice. And so by the end, you had, a journal and an eye pillow and an oil blend. And it was something that not only people can, use in the class, but now they have tangible tools to take with them. And so I had 4 people in that class. It was like in this like dusty room with weird lights. And so, but it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And so from there, word started to kind of spread. And, the second iteration of that class, someone was like, I work for CPS, like my students need this. And so that I never thought about going in and working with organizations. And so a lot of this has just been very organic. And yeah, it's just been flowing.
I love that. It resonates. I think when we have a gift and in one school of thought that would call it your dharma, when you're living your dharma, it's not necessarily something you can plan and go into. You really follow that flow and follow the energy that comes to you in your work. And one thing that you started to speak to a little bit earlier, I just want to pull back. A lot of your work might be grounded in the self-care. I'm putting in quotes, right? The self-care world. And I put it in quotes only because that's such a big buzzword that I don't think we understand all the time. But and you believe and you help share that self-care isn't selfish. We need that, right? We have to pour into ourselves. It sounds like as you've developed your business and your work, you've kept that at the forefront. Why is that important? Why is it important to reframe self-care as selfish, or, oh, I don't have time for me, I have to focus on others? Why pour into the self as a parent, as a professional, as a person, as a human being?
So just real quick before I answer the question directly, I've started to reframe it as nourishment.
Nice.
And I wanted to make that distinction because nourishment is the foundation for how we're able to move through the world in a healthy way. And, when we do our sessions, we talk about how important when we take in information, most of that information that we're taking in is through our body and then coming up to the brain. And so if we're not, tending to the body and the mind, we're only looking at one half of the equation. And so we're showing up to these things with the most purest of intentions, but we haven't nourished ourselves. Can we truly be effective if we're not caring for the whole self? And also, it doesn't always have to be like a self-care thing. And the thing I love about working with groups is that it becomes a community practice, right? Of like, I go into an organization and you're with your coworkers and being maybe a little bit more vulnerable, you're getting creative and you see your coworker in a different light. And so how can you take that and create new rituals as a team, create new policies that allow for that, that funnel funding into that. So really just exposing people to the muscle memory of that is at the core of it.
Yeah, I love it. Nourishment at the root. It is a practice. And when we can develop those practices with and among one another, that's what helps it sustain, right? That's the muscle we're building. Yeah. Twice now I've heard from folks who've taken, been in your self-care session with our timeline cohort, where which, for folks who don't know, it was a piece of the Make and Meditate, right? We all got shipped a box that you put so much tender, loving care into, so much intention. We were able to open those, and through your session, you talked about trauma, you talked about the nervous system, you talked about us as facilitators and being mindful of what's going on inside. And then we got to make our oil blends. Of course, I've got mine here somewhere. There it is. So we got to make these blends, right? Well, you gave us 3 of these and you gave us materials for multiple. And twice now I've heard folks say, I took this and I did this with my daughter, right? We having a hard time connecting, and doing an activity brought us closer. or another colleague. I have a nephew who's having a hard time. Our whole family's wondering, how can we help? How can we support? And spending some quality time being in relationship and nourishment together was one of the steps they took. Not going up to fix or make a plan, but really, how can we be together more impactfully? So such a gift that you're offering.
That.
Yeah,
That makes me so happy to hear.
Good.
Yeah.
I think that leads me to another question. When I think of you and your work, I really see an expanded orientation to the field of mindfulness, to the field of meditation. I see you incorporating creativity, art. I see you focusing and putting a lot of your effort in Black women, right? And populations and groups of people who have traditionally been separated from experiences of rest and care, right? So I see where your emphasis is. And I'm curious from your perspective, where is the field of mindfulness going? And how are you kind of grounding yourself and taking it into different areas that might not have had access to? Like, what's your perspective on where this work can go or where the field is going?
Yeah. So from my perspective, I see that mindfulness is starting to become, so it's one of those things that I think can easily get, I'm gonna put this in quotes, like diluted down.
Okay.
I think because it's a concept that, it sounds good, and there's been a lot of this research that shows how powerful it is. I think it is also still a very young field. And so while I think it's really beautiful that more people are embracing it, I think it's going to be extremely important that that people are just really doing the work to really study it. And so making sure that that facilitators are well versed in trauma and not just, listening to a meditation on YouTube and then turning around and wanting to hold space. I think that now that it's becoming more accessible, there will also need to be more responsibility with that. But I think there's an exciting opportunity because of all of the technology that we have. It's really heavy in schools. I know that hospitals are starting to incorporate more meditation and mindfulness practices for patients and things like that. And so I really do see it becoming something that my dream would be that eventually it is something that every student has to take. Class in mindfulness and emotional regulation and things like that. So I guess to answer your question is I see it being really expansive and well received, but I think that needs to happen with accountability and responsibility. There's my
beautiful
concise answer.
There you go.
I told you sometimes it takes me a minute. Like I'm a deep thinker. It takes me a minute to get there, but yes.
We're here for it. All the minutes you need. I love it. And it's almost as if we planned this, which we didn't. But you just loud me up when you talk about speaking of study and speaking of accountability and responsibility. We've created a whole study course, right? So it's we've kicked off our trauma sensitive mindfulness 101 course. That is a mouthful, but we are being very clear that we're not training folks to be professional trauma sensitive mindfulness practitioners. What we're bringing in is a lens and an awareness, and then supporting communities on creating their own practice groups so they can be with one another, to use your language, in that nourishment space. So from your perspective, talk about the course. Tell us about the project we're working on. And just for our audience, a lot of Soulbird's work currently is based in Ohio. And we've been supported through the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities to offer this year-long programming around trauma-sensitive mindfulness. So tell us more about from your perspective, how's it going? What are you thinking about it? And if kind of as a commercial, if folks want to get involved, we're doing the 6-week course now, and we're going to repeat that over in the fall and in next year. So maybe share a little bit more how people can get involved as well.
Yeah, so our trauma sensitive mindfulness course is a course that's been curated and designed with so much love and care by Sarah and myself, specifically centering families who have a loved one with the developmental disability label. Um, as someone who has a brother with that label, I know personally how frustrating and dysregulating that experience can be. And it's also just so isolating. And so Sarah and I have put both of our skill sets together to create this beautiful program to invite families to learn more about their bodies, learn more about their nervous systems, and combine that knowledge with some mindfulness practices that they can use to build a greater capacity to hold all of the complexities that come with that situation. And so, and not only have that knowledge, but also to build a community so that they are not isolated and alone. And so it's a 6-week course where we're diving into different topics like the nervous system, dealing with emotions, building community. What else are we talking about, Sarah?
I think you named it. We have a feeling schmealings is part of our kind of joke curriculum name, but like you said, dealing with emotions, integrating the body, and real practices to support us to navigate our days.
Yes. Yep. And again, these are tools that we're offering folks, not because they need to be fixed, but because people are asking for ways that they can be with themselves more fully, that they can be with their loved ones more fully. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about that. It's going really well so far. People have been really engaged and from what I've noticed, even a little bit vulnerable and sharing some of their own experiences, which I think is really, really healing.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. And this isn't completely new to either of us independently, right? These kinds of series, but this collaboration I think is unique because we're combining both of our skills around trauma and mindfulness. But you were able to take a group of women through a course similar through Cradle Cincinnati. Would you be willing to speak to that, and particularly for if folks want to bring you to their organization to support this kind of work? Give us an example of what that looks like.
Yeah, so I just finished a really amazing project with Queens Village, which is part of Cradle Cincinnati. And so their mission is to decrease infant mortality rate in Cincinnati, specifically for Black families. And so one of their pillars is the health of Black women, the health of the mothers. And so for 2 years, I worked with them to create a wellness journey class where I partnered with Regina Patton, who is a brilliant therapist, and we created a whole series introducing women to the 8 pillars of mindfulness from SAMHSA. So they got to learn about emotional wellness, financial wellness, all of the things. And so this past year, we created this program where we taught Black women about these things. I made a box for them where they got the supplies to create 5 different self-care nourishment tools to go along with the different lessons that we were teaching. So they got a box in the mail. We met every week and we talked about these issues, and it gave Black women an opportunity to open up, gave them an opportunity to relax and an opportunity to be creative together. And I think it was not only healing for them as individuals, but I think it was a healing experience for them to be able to have these really just vulnerable relationships with other Black women. And so after we taught that class, we opened it up. We said we want to create even more opportunities for this. So we picked 5 women from the community, and they were able to design their own version of this wellness program. And I put together my little boxes and they all got a box. And so these women got to go in with the boxes and with their own curriculum based off the SAMHSA material, create in 6 different neighborhoods in Cincinnati. And so so much positive feedback about that. I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but I want to say there were like 60 women, maybe like 60 women across the city that got to experience that over a 5-week period. So that is a project that was really exciting for me. And that's another organization that is doing a really amazing work in the wellness space as well.
I love it.
Yeah.
Two things to reflect. One, anyone who's in our trauma sensitive mindfulness course is like, I want a box. Where are these boxes? We don't have them in our course. So I know that's one of those things where it's a unique offering that you bring. And I know you've shared, you love putting so much love and care into those boxes. So I just want to really commend you for connecting not just the intellectual space, not just the body space, the spirit space, but also that creative outlet. I think it's such a unique value add. And I would encourage anyone who is looking to pour in and to nourish their staff, their family, their communities, to contact you to see what kind of work you can do with them. Because that brings me to my other reflection is, I say all the time, trauma is real and together we can heal. And the reason why I say that is because that trauma is real, whether you don't want to call it trauma or not, stress, challenge, overwhelm, right? All that stuff has a really powerful impact on our brain, our body, our behavioral patterns. But the healing, it doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in the context of relationship. And what you just shared was not only are you pouring into people and helping people build relationship, but you're creating that ripple effect. You're really equipping people to continue to take out these practices and this message to their communities. So I think again, major kudos to you. You could just keep that knowledge for yourself and train, but you're really trying to pour into folks. So your legacy, in a sense, really lives on through their work. So thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you for the work you do. Kara, Soulbird will always partner with you when we can. I already know that. We're big fans of your work and advocates. Where can people find you into the future?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Lilac, LILAC _indigo, INDIGO. My website is lilacandindigo.com. You can feel free to shoot me an email, hello@lilacandindigo.com. And I would be happy to talk with you and connect with you. So yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. I hope your phone is ringing off the hook. I don't know if we do phones
too,
these days, but yeah.
Me too.
Nice. Oh, so much love to you. Thanks for speaking your wisdom and your goodness to us today. And we'll see you out there in the world, in the or in person.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
Much love to you, Kara.
Bye.
Bye.